There comes a moment when a man stops seeing you as the woman he once admired. It's not sudden. Respect doesn't vanish overnight. It slips away in silence, in small moments you might overlook, until one day it's gone. Without respect, love fades away. It's a quiet unraveling, gradually eroding everything that once made you precious to him. Hi, it's Vernon again. After nearly 8 decades of watching love's fragile dance, I've learned that respect is the true foundation. Lose that, and nothing else can stand. The issue is, the things that quietly takes a man's respect for you are subtle, so subtle that you won't see them until it's too late. But before we start, don't hesitate to subscribe to my channel. It might be the one reminder you need, and also a place where we reflect and share the wisdom that comes after 60 together. So sit with me for a moment. Let's uncover the silent truths that can save or shatter a man's respect, and maybe your love. Because in understanding these quiet shifts, we find not just clarity, but the chance to heal what once seemed lost. Now, let's start. 1. The erosion of self-worth when you don't protect your own boundaries. It's easy to forget that in the dance of any relationship, we must first respect ourselves before we can ever ask for that respect from another. Boundaries, you see, are not just lines drawn in the sand. They are the walls of your inner world. They define where you end and where someone else begins. The moment you ignore or let others cross those boundaries, something shifts, quietly, almost imperceptibly. The respect a man has for you begins to erode, not because of what you've done, but because of what you've allowed to happen. Respect isn't about grand gestures or declarations. It's about the small, daily decisions we make. The way we stand firm in what we need, and the way we show others how to treat us. When you consistently soften your boundaries to avoid conflict, when you let things slide just to keep the peace, you're teaching him that your needs don't matter. It might seem small at first, saying yes when you mean no, accepting behavior that you know deep down is disrespectful. But over time, it builds a wall of silence between you. It creates a distance that neither of you can bridge. And without your own boundaries firmly in place, the space where respect once stood begins to crumble. You might tell yourself, I'm just being understanding. I'm just trying to keep things smooth. But the truth is, when you don't protect your own sense of self-worth, you can't expect him to value you in the way you deserve. And when he sees you falter in your own strength, it doesn't inspire admiration, it breeds indifference. And that, my friends, is the first step in the quiet unraveling of respect. So, now that we've touched on how boundaries shape respect, let's move to something that we all too often overlook, the role of emotional honesty in preserving the respect that holds relationships together. 2. The quiet disconnect when emotional honesty fades away. At the old age, respect, it's like a river, flows from a steady source. But when the current of communication begins to dry up, when the waters of emotional honesty recede, respect starts to stagnate.
It's easy to assume that love will keep a man's heart open, but it's honesty that sustains it, the kind of honesty that isn't just about words, but about the quiet sharing of what lies within. When you withhold your true feelings, afraid to voice your discomfort, your needs, or your desires, it's like putting a lid on a pot of boiling water. The pressure builds beneath the surface, but nothing can escape. And the longer you keep it contained, the heavier the weight becomes. Eventually, the pot overflows, and in the midst of that eruption, what you were trying to protect might slip away. The subtle harm happens when, instead of expressing what you feel, you bury it deep within. Maybe you smile through your frustrations or ignore small hurts, thinking they won't matter. You might even say to yourself, "It's not worth bringing up." But the truth is, unspoken feelings create a barrier. It's as if you're building walls around your heart, brick by brick, until the space between you and him is no longer a bridge, but an ocean. In these moments, you stop being a true partner and start being a silent observer. And the irony is, the more you hide your truth, the less he is able to truly see you. The very thing that builds connection, vulnerability, starts to fade. And without that openness, the respect he once held for you begins to slip unnoticed. But it doesn't have to be that way. It's not about laying bare every single thought or feeling, but about creating a space for honest exchanges. When you're emotionally available and open, it allows him to meet you there too. That is the dance of intimacy, where respect thrives. As we move forward, we must consider another subtle shift, one that may seem small at first, but can quietly dismantle the foundation of respect, the expectation of constant validation. 3. The weight of constant validation, when your self-worth becomes dependent on others. There's an old saying that you can't pour from an empty cup. But what happens when you start relying on someone else's cup to fill your own? When your self-worth becomes dependent on external validation, from him, from anyone, you've already started to lose yourself. And the moment you start losing yourself, you're no longer the person he respected in the first place. I've seen it many times. In my own life, I've watched friends, family members, even strangers pour everything into someone else, hoping for the validation that would prove they were enough. But here's the truth I've learned from decades of watching love's delicate balance. When you seek validation outside yourself, you relinquish control over your own sense of worth. It becomes a fragile thing, easily shaken by the words, looks, or actions of another person. And it's exhausting. Martha, my best friend, spent most of her marriage questioning her worth. No matter how much she gave to her husband, how much she did for him, she would constantly ask, "Do you love me? Am I enough?" It wasn't until years later, after he had grown distant, that she realized how much of her own strength she had handed over to him, and how much it had chipped away at his respect for her. He was never asked to step up and give her the reassurance she craved. Instead, she made it his responsibility to validate her existence. It wasn't that he didn't care, he did. But over time, he became numb to her constant need for approval. He stopped seeing her as an equal partner, someone who already had her own strength, her own inner worth. And when that respect faded, so did the affection, bit by bit. This isn't about not seeking affection or love from a partner. That's a natural human need. But there's a line where the need for validation becomes a cycle that drains both people. When you depend on someone else to tell you that you are worthy, you are surrendering your own power. You start to shrink, not just in your own eyes, but in his as well. To love yourself first and to know you are enough isn't arrogance. It's the foundation of a strong, healthy relationship. When your own cup is full, you won't constantly need someone to fill it. Instead, you'll both be able to pour from your own cups and create something richer together. That's when respect flourishes, not because you seek it, but because it's already built within you. And when he sees that you no longer need his validation to feel complete, he will remember why he admired you in the first place. You become the woman he can't help but respect, strong, independent, and whole on her own. As we consider the quiet forces that erode respect, we must also turn our gaze towards something many don't even realize they're doing. It's not a lack of love, nor is it a lack of effort. It's something far more insidious that sometimes creeps into relationships without either party noticing it. That force, my friends, is the slow but steady decline of emotional availability.
4. The older erosion of emotional availability. When you close yourself off. In any lasting relationship, emotional availability is like the air we breathe. It's not always visible, but without it, everything suffocates. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that love will keep the heart open, that simple gestures or words can hold it all together. But here's the thing. Love needs emotional intimacy to grow, to thrive, and to be sustained. The truth is, when you begin to close yourself off, when you stop sharing your thoughts, your fears, your dreams, your struggles, you create an invisible wall between you and the person you once trusted with your heart. And this wall doesn't show up overnight. It's built slowly, piece by piece, with every unspoken word and every moment you choose not to be vulnerable. It's not always a conscious decision. You may not even realize it at first. Maybe you've been hurt before, and now, more than ever, you feel the need to protect yourself. But in doing so, you cut off the very source of connection that your relationship depends on. You stop sharing not just your pain, but also your joy, your triumphs, and your deepest, truest self. And the irony is, the more you close yourself off, the more distant the other person becomes. It's like standing next to a fire, but refusing to warm yourself by its heat. And while you may believe that protecting your heart is keeping you safe, you're only locking yourself out of the very love and respect you're hoping to preserve. Because, you see, emotional availability is not a weakness, it's a strength. It's the willingness to be open, vulnerable, and real, even when the fear of rejection or failure looms large. When you share your soul, not just your surface-level thoughts, you create a bridge that connects you, a bridge of trust, of mutual respect, of true understanding. Without it, you may have companionship, but you won't have connection. And when that connection fades, so too does the respect that once anchored the relationship. As you reflect on this, I invite you to take a moment. Think about how much of your true self you've been sharing, and ask yourself, have you been emotionally available, or have you been hiding behind walls that only distance you from the very people you care about? This is where growth happens, in the quiet spaces of vulnerability and honesty. So if you found something in this video that resonates with you, something that made you stop and think, go ahead and save this video. It might just be the reminder you need when the time comes to reconnect, to open your heart once more. As we continue, we'll explore yet another subtle shift that can quietly dismantle a relationship: the erosion of trust, a slow burning fire that can leave nothing but ashes if left unchecked. 5. The erosion of trust, when you stop being there for each other. Have you ever wondered what truly holds a relationship together when everything else seems to be falling apart? The answer, my friends, is trust. Without it, even the strongest love can be shattered beyond repair. Trust isn't something you build once and then forget about. It's a living, breathing entity that requires constant nurturing, attention, and care. The moment you stop showing up for each other, emotionally, physically, or even in small acts of kindness, trust begins to wither, quietly but steadily. It's not the big betrayals that often cause the greatest damage. It's the small, everyday moments of neglect. When you stop showing that you're there for the other person, even in the smallest ways, trust begins to fade. The reassuring touch that once said, "I've got you," starts to disappear. The simple gestures that once conveyed, "I'm here and I'm not going anywhere," start to feel hollow. And without these, the foundation of trust, which was once so solid, begins to crumble. When you start holding back, emotionally or physically, you create a space between you and him that grows wider each day. You might justify it at first, thinking you're just giving each other space, or that you're too busy to check in. But over time, these small withdrawals add up. And soon, the relationship that once felt like a secure harbor feels like an abandoned ship drifting aimlessly on a sea of uncertainty. Trust, once lost, is hard to regain. You can try to rebuild it piece by piece, but it will never feel the same as it did before. And the longer you wait to rebuild it, the harder it becomes. Trust needs attention. It needs you to show up, to be there for each other, and to prove that you're invested in the relationship. Otherwise, it fades into the background, and with it, the respect that was once held so dearly. Ask yourself this: have you been showing up for your partner lately? Not just physically, but emotionally. Are you proving in your words and actions that they can rely on you no matter what? Because trust isn't about perfection, it's about consistency. And without it, respect withers, love fades, and everything that once was so strong begins to fall apart. 6. The fading of shared goals, when your paths start to diverge. As the philosopher Aristotle once said, the ultimate value of life depends upon awareness and the power of contemplation rather than upon mere survival.
Relationships, much like life itself, require more than just coexistence. They require shared purpose and mutual growth. Without this, even the deepest connections begin to fray. It's not the absence of love that leads to separation. It's the absence of a common vision. Relationships thrive when both partners are aligned, moving toward something together. But when your goals and dreams start to drift apart, when the conversations shift from shared aspirations to personal desires that no longer intersect, something subtle but powerful begins to happen. The bond weakens. As life goes on, it's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day struggles and forget to dream together. The moment you stop sharing your visions for the future, your hopes, your ambitions, your vision of what you both want from life, you stop growing together. You start growing apart. And in that space, respect begins to wane. The danger is that you may not even notice it at first. It might feel like you're still connected, still sharing moments, still laughing together. But when the paths you walk start to diverge, when your priorities no longer align, a quiet distance grows between you. And without a shared goal to bring you closer, even the strongest of feelings begin to fade. Now, think about it. What happens when you no longer share the same vision? When the dreams you once held together seem distant or irrelevant? At that point, you're not just two people who are physically present in each other's lives. You're two people living parallel lives, each trying to find meaning in different places. So, what happens when you stop dreaming together, when you forget to take the time to reflect on your shared future? You start losing the very connection that brought you together in the first place. You lose the sense of partnership, the feeling that you're both on the same team, working towards something meaningful. And when that happens, the respect you once held for each other begins to erode. Without shared goals, without mutual purpose, love becomes a passing moment, and respect becomes a distant memory. Reflect on this. Are you and your partner still dreaming together? Are you still working toward a shared future, or are you simply coexisting? In the end, it's not just about survival, it's about thriving together. Without that common vision, the foundation of respect will slowly begin to crumble.
7. The absence of appreciation. When small efforts go unnoticed. Gratitude is not only the greatest of virtues, but the parent of all others, said Cicero. In relationships, it's not the grand gestures that sustain respect. It's the small, everyday acts of appreciation that often go unnoticed. When you stop acknowledging the little things, the effort, the thoughtfulness, the care, respect begins to fade. It's easy to take someone for granted, especially when you've been together for a long time. But when the appreciation disappears, so does the admiration. Without it, love feels like an obligation, not a choice. We all want to be seen. We want to feel that our efforts matter. And when they go unrecognized, something shifts. The feeling of being valued is the bedrock of respect. Without it, even the deepest feelings of affection begin to wither. Ask yourself, when was the last time you truly acknowledged the small efforts of your partner? When was the last time you expressed gratitude, not out of obligation, but out of genuine appreciation? If you want respect to flourish, it starts with seeing each other in the everyday moments. The quiet,
unnoticed ones. And with that, we've gone through the 7 things that quietly kill a man's respect for you. Now, it's time to reflect on where you stand and how to rebuild what may have been lost.
As we've explored these 7 subtle forces, it's clear that respect doesn't vanish all at once. It fades slowly, like the gradual fading of sunlight as dusk approaches. The things that kill a man's respect for you, the small moments of emotional neglect, the unspoken fears, the unmet needs, they don't shout for attention. They whisper, unnoticed, until one day you realize the light has dimmed. But here's the wisdom I want to leave you with. All is not lost. The quiet unraveling of respect can be reversed. If we take the time to reflect, to reawaken the boundaries we've let slip, to open the door to honest conversation, to reclaim our self-worth, we can rebuild what was once eroded. It's never too late to shift the tide. And remember this, respect, once restored, isn't something that can be easily shaken again. When you learn to respect yourself and honor the emotional bond that connects you, you'll find that respect flows freely, not just from him, but from yourself, first and foremost. Now is your turn. Take a moment for reflection. Think about where you stand today and what shifts you can make to restore the respect and love in your life. If this video has resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Save it, reflect on it, and share it with someone you care about. Sometimes it's the quiet truths that speak the loudest. And as always, if you found value in this, subscribe to my channel. The journey towards deeper connection and mutual respect is just beginning. And I'll be here, sharing more of the wisdom we gain along the way. And I'm Vernon. Thanks for watching my video.